So when we left our animation last, okay, we had our guy running across the frame here, and we had a sky and a ground and everything like that. One of the things that we're going to do next is we're going to add something called the multiplane effect. Now, one of the real difficult things about 2D animation in general, or any type of two-dimensional art drawing, is getting the sense of depth. It's very easy to make things look flat and can end up looking like just pieces of paper moving across, the screen. We want to give a greater sense of depth, and one of the ways that we can do that is add a background. But even then, it can be really hard to get a sense of depth. So what we're going to talk about is something that Walt Disney actually was one of the first people to really start working on, and he came up with another invention called the multiplane camera, which I'll explain later. Maybe I'll post something about that on my website. The camera was a really cool piece of technology, and what he did with it was amazing. You can just look up multiplane effect on YouTube or on Google, and you'll get some really cool pages that explain how the multiplane effect adds this sense of dimension to an animation. We're going to do something very similar. It's going to be more simple with our animations by just creating a series of layers that correspond to things that are different, or that are at different dimensions or different depths away from, and I'm going to use quotes here, so I'm going to use my fingers, sorry, the camera. There really isn't a camera in Flash, okay? At least not the way we're using it. Once we move into 3D animation in Blender, you actually have a camera that you can animate and move and spin around and do all sorts of amazing things as if you were really filming with a camera. We don't have that ability in Flash. So in some ways you have to look at, this is your camera right here. This is the only view you really get with this kind of animation. So here's what we're going to do. So I've got my ground layer, and I've got, let's see, what's layer 2? Oh, layer 2 is my sky. So I'm going to hit sky. Okay, I'm going to lock that. And then we make a new layer in between, and let's just make some, mountains. So I'm just going to take my pen tool, and I'm just going to grab kind of like a gray color and no stroke. I said no stroke. Why isn't it listening to me? I don't know. And I'm just going to start, I'm just going to build some mountains here. And I'm going to purposely go bigger than the frame, as you're going to find out why in just a second. So I'd just like to, maybe we won't make mountains. I'm going to make hills. And it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's very frustrating. What's wrong? There we go. It wasn't set to object drawing. That's interesting. So I'm just going to have some hills. And you guys, you don't have to do this. You can make this in any way, shape, or form that you want it to. And notice that, well, actually, let me do that last thing again here. So I've got this last point, and I need to connect these two. Okay, I rushed through that, and I want to show you this specifically so that everybody can see what I'm doing. And what I want to do is you have to go and you have to close the shape if you're creating an object made with a pen tool. If you don't close the shape, you won't be able to fill it with a color or a gradient or anything like that. So that's really important. Now when I do close the shape, sometimes, a lot of times, click close, there we go, you'll notice it doesn't fill with a color. I'm not quite sure why this is, but I'll just select the whole thing. Oops, I've got to lock my runner layer here. I'll just select the whole thing again, and I can add a fill, just like that. Or you can use the paint bucket, which is right there, to add a fill, whatever. So I've got these gray mountains. Let's not go gray. Gray's kind of boring. Let's do like green hills, dark like green hills. Yeah, there we go. That's kind of nice. And they're kind of comical anyway. They're not really. And we're going to put them right to the side here. So he's moving this way. Oh, we want them to be like this. Okay, so we're going to put them there. Now notice my guy still has transparent arms and transparent face. Okay, so obviously I haven't been done coloring him in. You'll have to forgive that. We'll take care of that later, but you get the idea. So there's our runner running across. Now, before I start animating it, we should name our layers here, runner, and then hills. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, so he's running on a road, that's fine. I'm going to create a dotted line. You know, if he's running in a highway, right, or not really a highway, you should never run on the highway. Okay, but let's just say he's running on the side of a road. We have a dashed yellow line in the middle. So let me kind of create that. So I'm going to make another layer here, and it's going to go above the ground. We'll call this road lines. And I can just take a rectangle and get a nice gold color. That looks pretty good. And I'll just make a nice thin line like that. And again, I'm going to lock all my other layers. Makes things a lot easier. And I've got a black outline on these, so I'm going to say nothing, or I'm going to go no stroke on that. So there, now there's no stroke. And then I'm just going to hold Option key down, and I'm going to drag, and I get another one. Now, what's wrong? Does that look weird to you? Why does it look weird? There's a reason. It's too close? No, I don't.
Typically, road lines in real life aren't exactly entirely perfect like that.
That's a good point, actually, because they're sprayed onto a road that's bumpy and stuff like that. Yes, that's true. There's something else that's missing, yeah. Tarn. What do you mean? Okay, so the runner's not down in the road. That's a good point. Yep, we can do that. There's no depth to them. They look really flat, right? Don't they? So one of the things that we can do, and I'll do this with the first one before I duplicate the second one, that way they're always the same, is if I'm smart, I'm going to look at this and go, what it's lacking is it's lacking perspective. So I'm going to click our free transform tool, and notice that when I get down on the edge here, I get these two arrows. I can skew it, stretch it, and squish it a little bit. Now, it looks like it's kind of going away from us a little bit, doesn't it? It's got an angle to it. We call that, it's perspective. So this is going to help me a lot in, again, creating a sense of depth. So now I'm going to hit the Option key, and I'm not going to worry about it being too even, even though that was correct. They are nice and even and perfectly created dashes. But the other thing I'm going to do is once I get a few of them set up, then I'll re-highlight all of them and Option drag again. And I hold the Shift key down, okay, and what that will do is that will allow me to copy larger, or not the Shift key allows me to move it in line so that it doesn't move up or down at all. And the Option key allows me to copy larger groups. So I'll just keep re-highlighting and holding the Option key down, and every time I drag it, okay, I get more of them. Now I'm going to purposefully create a line set that's longer than my stage, much longer than my stage. And the reason for that is going to be pretty apparent in just a second. Put a few more this way too, just in case the edge. I don't know where the edge of the stage is right now. Let's turn off our sky and see if we can. Oh, so I had plenty of space. The edge of our stage is over here. That's another problem, which I'll show you a real quick fix on that sometime too. So anyway, so I've got my road lines here. Now, if I just take a look at what I've got now, let's take our runner. Taran was right. Let's take our runner and we're going to move him down a little bit. So I'm going to click on his layer and I'm going to move him down just a touch. Now, there's a problem with it. Oh, look at that. So if you highlight the whole thing, he moves everything down. That's cool. if you don't do it the way I did it there. So if you don't just click on the layer, you'll notice that his beginning point and his ending point moved down together. However, sometimes if you just are like clicked on an individual keyframe and you move him down, watch what happens to the line. See, now he's going up, so it'll look kind of weird. So what you want to do is you want to double click so that everything is selected, and then you can move him down. Now, oops, that created a new keyframe. Just click on the layer, and then it works. No, now it doesn't work anymore. Oh, okay. Let's try it now. So I clicked off. Now it's still not working. See, I don't even know how I did it. All right, well, if that happens, what I'll do...
You selected them all before.
Yeah, but they're all selected up here now, too. I don't get it.
You're selecting them.
Let me try it one more time. So select all. Come up here. Select all. Now it works. Okay, so I hit Command A, and that does the trick to select all. Okay. If that doesn't work, don't try and move the timeline and then move him down. Just use the white arrow tool to move the points. That's the easiest way to see that you're going back into a straight line. Anyway, let's see what this looks like. Now he's got transparent feet too, so they're gonna disappear against the road. Okay. That's pretty cool. But you know what? Still, doesn't really have a lot of depth, does it? And we can keep adding things, and we probably should. But let's give a sense of camera motion. First things first. So I'm going to take my road lines. Let's lock our runner. I'm going to unlock them. I'm going to hit Command A, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Convert to Symbol. What this allows me to do now is this allows me to create a motion tween on the road lines and give them some motion. So if I create a motion tween and then I go to the end of my animation and I move them like that, let's build the animation and see what they look like. Not bad. So now it kind of looks like we're watching the runner from a car or very slow moving wagon, I don't know, because he's running faster than we are moving, but it still gives a sense that the road is moving too. He needs roller skates to go a little faster. I like that. That's a good solution. That's an excellent solution, although you have to change your run cycle because you don't roller skate like that. However, again, we don't really have a great sense of motion yet. It's kind of weird. What we need is multiple planes of motion. Now the road is perfectly black. So if I create any motion with that, that's pointless. Okay, it's really not going to make a difference. But we could move something else. What do you think we should move? What's that? The background, right? Or, James, the hills, right? That's what you're going to say? So if we move, now, should the hills move the same amount, less, or more than the road lines? Less. Why is that?
Because they're farther away.
Okay. How does that work? You ever wondered that? Why does that work? Yeah, it's a thing called angular velocity. Now, I'm not going to go into the physics of it, but just think of it this way. Stand next to a runway. Don't really stand right on the runway, okay? But you know, I don't know if you guys were ever taking as kids back to the, they've got that chain link fence back behind the airport. I used to take my kids there all the time to watch the airplanes take off and land. It's really cool. An airplane comes past you that close at 600 miles an hour. It's going really fast, right? But then you're sitting in your front yard or on your porch or something like that, and you look up in the sky and you see an airplane, and it's 30,000 feet. It's going just as fast, if not faster. And it looks like it's going really, really, really slow. And that's because of angular velocity. The speed is not apparent because the distance, it looks smaller. So to you, 100 yards right up in front of you takes up, say, from here to here. But as the object gets further away, 100 yards can be smaller than your pinky fingernail, you know. So it may be taking up that same amount of space and distance when it's flying, but it doesn't appear to be going that, you know, that fast because it's so far away. So we're going to want our hills to move less. Now, what's going to happen here is I need to create, again, a symbol. Right now, this is just a shape. So I need to convert it to a symbol before I can add the tween. If you try and add a tween on something that's not a symbol, it will tell you. So let me just, you know, say create motion tween. And it's going to give me a little error here. It says the selected item cannot be tweened. You must convert this thing to a symbol in order to tween it. Do you want to convert? Now, if you hit OK, it creates it to a symbol, but it gives it a bogus name. Symbol 1, symbol 2, symbol 3, symbol 4, that sort of thing. And it gets really hard to keep track of your symbols. So for me personally, I always hit cancel. And then I go and I create a symbol myself so that I can give it the name that I want so that I can keep track of all my symbols. See that? And if you go to your library, you'll see that all 3 of my symbols have the proper name, so I know exactly what they are. So now that my hills are a symbol, now I can add a motion tween. For some strange reason, I feel like singing "The Hills Are Alive." So I'm just going to move them. I'm just going to move them a slight little bit, just a touch like that. Now, let's build our animation and see what we got. Ah, now we're starting to see it, huh? Now we're starting to see that idea of multiplane motion. Now I can do the same thing, let's say with a bunch of trees, okay, or a guardrail or something like that. I'm just going to build a tree because it's easy, so I'm going to go right above the road lines here. No, I'm going to go behind the road, but in front of the hills. And I'm just going to build a very simple tree, guys. I would want you to do a little bit more with the trees than I'm going to do right now. I'm just going to get myself kind of a brownish color. I'm going to take a rectangle, and I'm going to build a tree. Woohoo! Okay, there's a tree. Now I'm going to give it some leaves, really simply by just doing a whole series of circles. Okay. Yay.
High art.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm trying to save time here, so. But I would definitely want you to spend a little more time on the texture of the trees and you know, stuff like that to make it look, or whatever your background is. I mean, it doesn't have to be a tree. It doesn't have to be like this. But I just wanted to kind of do something like this. Okay, so there we go. So I've got an odd-shaped tree here with some floating leaves and whatnot. Okay, but again, it's not exactly what I'd be happy with, but it works. So now I'm going to take the move. Oops, stink. I'm going to lock the hills. Then I'm going to take this tree, right-click, and I'm going to convert it to a symbol. Now watch this. I'm going to call it tree. Now, I would probably create 3 or 4 of these that are all subtly different. I'm not going to take the time to do that. Instead, I'm going to just copy and paste this one and make it, you know, this here, this there, this there, okay? I would make 3 or 4 that were subtly different, and then I would randomly copy and paste those. And you can do this in multiple layers. So I've got close-up trees, okay? Then I would have like further away trees and even further away trees. But you get the idea. So I'm going to just make a few trees here. There we go. Now I'm going to highlight them all, and I'm going to put those symbols in a new symbol called forest. And then because I'm going to have a couple of these, I'm going to call it level 1 because it's going to be the closest forest level. There we go. But now I'm going to take my layer and name it forest level 1, so it corresponds with that. And we're going to create a motion tween. Go to the end of the animation, and now we're going to move these. Now I want to move them a little bit less than the lines because they're a little bit further away, right? So there we go. And let's see how that looks. Not too shabby. Again, you can really start to see the multiplane motion coming along here, can't you? Now, some of my trees are floating, okay? I would create little clumps of grass around them or something like that to make them look like they were actually planted. I would also probably create a grass plane that would go back into space. Actually, let's do that right now. So let's just add our last few details. So now I'm going to have a new layer that's going to be behind forest level 1, and we're going to call this forest level 2, right? Now, for the sake of time, again, I'm just going to recopy, I'm going to duplicate my original symbol, forest level 1, and make it forest level 2. But I would probably, because I don't want things to look identical, I would probably make a new one. I would just duplicate the trees again and just drag them onto the stage in another random order. Because if you do it the way I'm doing it, it's going to be very painfully obvious that all you did was copy and paste. You want things to look random and natural. Okay, you don't want them to look like you were lazy, essentially. So now I'm going to take forest level 2, and I'm just going to drag it on here, okay? And then I'm going to take it, and I'm going, you know what I can do? Modify, transform, flip horizontal. At least they'll look a little different. And I'm going to make them a little smaller, like so, okay? And whoops, got to lock layer 1. What's another thing that happens to objects when they are further away? Are they higher or lower on the page?
Higher.
Higher, exactly. So as things get further away, they get higher. Okay, so now we've got that, like so. And then again, I'm going to move it a little less than what the others removed. So I'm going to create a motion tween. I'm going to go to the end of my animation. I'm just going to look at how much they moved. And I'm going to move this one a little less. Now let's see what that looks like. Can you see how these multiple layers, okay, are trying to really give us a great sense of depth? One of the other things that I might do with these trees that are in my second layer is because it's kind of like the start of a forest, the trees inside the forest are not going to have as much light on them as the trees on the outside, so I would make them darker. And I would honestly probably do 3 or 4 or 5 layers of trees, each one subtly different, to give a really great sense of depth. But then the other thing that we can do here is we're going to create a ground plane. So here we have, this one's called ground. This is actually our road. So I'm going to rename my layer here and call it road, because that's really not correct. And then I'm going to create one more layer behind the trees. And this is not going to be animated, but watch what I'm going to do with it. I think you'll like this. I'm going to create just a rectangle. Still got that green color that I used for the trees. That's not going to be right, but we'll just create this here. And I'm just going to create another rectangle right there. Now what that immediately does is it gives us a little bit of separation between the hills and our trees and our road. But I'm actually going to create on this what we call a gradient. You guys, some of you probably know what a gradient is. I'm going to go over to my color swatches and I'm going to go to linear gradient. And what it's going to do is it's going to give us white to black. Let me turn off everything else so that we can just see what I'm doing here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gradient and I'm going to double click on the white here, and I can go down into here and I should be able to why isn't it working? It's not testing the green. That's annoying. Okay, well I can just get the green that I had in there basically. And you can see how now it's going from black to green. And then I'm going to lighten that green up just a touch because I don't want it to be exactly the same as the green in the hills. Okay, so I'm going to lighten it up, maybe even a little bit more here. There, now it's the same, and now it's just a touch lighter. And then I'm going to take my black, okay, I'm going to go over here. See, that's frustrating. Whatever. Okay, just grab a green and then just make it lighter, 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 lighter until it's a little bit lighter than that. Now, some of you might go, okay, well, Weiss Road, it's going sideways. All right, this is a massive problem. We don't want the gradient to go sideways. We want it to go front to back. So what I do then is I go over to our free transform tool. Have any of you ever clicked and held on that button? Oh, look, a gradient transform tool. So now I'm just going to take that, and you'll notice that all of a sudden I have these controls right here on the object. I can rotate or I can stretch my gradient. So if I squish it down, you see the lines? Now it goes, here's my solid color, and it fades out. If I rotate it, now the gradient goes in a different direction. There we go. Now let's turn everything else back on. And I might take the transform tool on this and bring this up a tiny bit. Bring this one over a little bit. That looks pretty good. Let's make sure my gradient is back to, yeah, it looks pretty even. And let's build the animation and see how it looks now. That subtle gradient going from a lighter shade to a darker shade works really well. Honestly, all I really need now, you know, again, is little tufts of grass and stuff like that at the base of the trees so they don't look like they're floating. And also, I would probably put like a guardrail or bushes or something right here at the edge of the road to kind of give the road a border. Because right now, it kind of looks like it just ends. It's a little weird. It needs a berm. It needs dirt or something on the side of it. There's one last thing that we can do that will really increase the sense of depth, and that is to put something in front of our runner. So I'm going to add one more layer. I'm just going to go back to my tree symbol and copy it, okay, here, and then I'm going to make it bigger, much bigger, like it's in front of our camera. Okay, it's going to be over here. Add a motion tween, and I might not want even for it to start until, well, we'll just have it start right away. And then it immediately, in a very short span of time, flies across the screen. See that? And it's important because it's closer. Hold on, sit down. It's important because it's closer that it actually moves faster than the lines. This is the really key thing. You have to make sure that anything that's closer is moving faster. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
A lot? Okay. Also notice I did another thing here, and I might move them down a little bit, but notice the dotted lines aren't perfectly 50-50 even in the road. They're further away. This gives us a sense that we're closer to the left side of the road because it's bigger than the right side of the road. Again, it's kind of a perspective thing. So you wouldn't want to put these lines right in the center because that would actually look worse. You want the more road in the front a little bit. Maybe it's too much, but I might move them down a smidge. But essentially, you want them more space at the bottom here because, again, you're closer, so you're adding that sense of depth. I might also add a slight gradient to the road. Let it get a little lighter as it came towards me. Again, to do the same thing I did with the grass in the background to give that sense of coming towards you. Something like that. Does this make sense to everybody? This is what we're after. We want depth in our animation, and this is an excellent way to do it, the multiplane effect.